Hi everyone, Chris Natsky here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching on Facebook Live with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week. This week I want to talk about the power of enthusiasm. And I've always been so moved by the quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson that says, "Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm." This week I had a unique experience. I went to a concert on Monday night with my son Jason, and we saw the musical artist David Gray. Now, I had never been a huge David Gray fan. I mean, I heard him on the radio, and I enjoyed his music. And some of you might remember him from the early 90s to the early 2000s, songs like Babylon, whatever. And so I went because he's one of Jason's favorite artists and really enjoyed the experience. And I went there kind of as an average fan. I knew of him, and I liked some of his music, but I left there as a huge fan. And here's why. The music was great, so it wasn't just that, and the venue was awesome, and the sights that you saw on stage were great as well. But what really got me going was his level of enthusiasm for performing. For 2 hours and 15 minutes, this guy just owned the stage, and you could just see that his music was coming from his heart. Now, some of you might think, well, heck, if I was performing, hey, Greg Jordan, good to see you, buddy. If I was performing in front of 2,000 people, all adoring fans, I'd get enthusiastic as well. But I started thinking about it. I looked up a little bit about him, and his first album came out in 1993, which means he's been out. Hey, Rebecca, thanks for joining. David Gray's been out performing for 25, 30 years. And so some of these songs he was singing, he's probably done over 10,000 times, probably more, in front of audiences all over the world. But for me, it was the first time I'd heard him live, and he was doing it with such soul and such enthusiasm. It totally moved me. And I started thinking, about this whole idea of enthusiasm and how it works in our life and how it can continue to really propel us forward if we choose. And I was wondering why that is. And the first thing that was coming to me is that it's really when we are in that state of enthusiasm, it's our natural state of being. When we have the gifts that we have to share in this world and we do them with enthusiasm, the reason we get so moved by it is we recognize that when someone does it, it's also in ourselves. We recognize the same thing. The other thing it got to me thinking is that what does enthusiasm mean? And I love looking up the origin of words, and the Greek origin of the word enthusiasm is entheos. Means God or Spirit is within us. So when we hit that level of enthusiasm, there's something special that happens. And particularly musical artists. In fact, it can't only do something where it inspires us, but in the moment, but it can also inspire us to do big things in our life. And it made me think of back 25, 26 years ago when I was considering leaving the corporate arena to open up my martial arts school. I was at an event where I heard this amazing singer. And as she was singing, she had so much soul and so much enthusiasm for what she was doing. I looked at her and I thought, wow, that's the way I am when I teach martial arts. That's how I show up. What am I waiting for? And it was in months after that I left my corporate job and I opened up my martial arts studio, and the rest is history. It totally changed my life. So it got me thinking, how does enthusiasm impact us in our lives? And asking the question for you, how can you use enthusiasm to your benefit? Because I think many of us think that enthusiasm is just something that happens from the outside and then it impacts us as a result of us seeing or experiencing something. But actually, enthusiasm is something we can generate from the inside out. Whether it's something that can excite us like an event or just a mundane thing that we do each and every day, we can bring enthusiasm to that in order to impact our performance and our leadership. So I thought of 4 things I want to share with you today in terms of how we can impact our lives and the organizations that we influence and lead through enthusiasm. And the first one I want to share with you is to visualize with enthusiasm. All leaders, all athletes know the power of visualization. In fact, when you take a look at Olympic athletes, when they're doing a 100-meter dash, the difference in them from an athletic standpoint is just incredibly minute. And oftentimes they win with 100ths of a second. But oftentimes it's the visualization that gets them there. But it's just not a mental rehearsal. It's visualizing with enthusiasm and feeling. When you get your entire emotion behind it, what it does is it supercharges your visualizations, and then that impacts the actions you take. So the next time you're in a point where you're visualizing, bring enthusiasm to it, bring feeling to it, because that can supercharge what you're going to do. Next is when you're visualizing, or after visualization, is planning with enthusiasm. all of us can get all excited and then we go out and we do something and may not get us the best results. Planning is a super important part. But again, rather than just making that a mental exercise, do it with enthusiasm. And what I found is when I'm in a project and I'm bringing enthusiasm to it, that's when my creativity is at its highest. I'm excited about what I'm doing and ideas begin to flow. It's also what helps me when obstacles happen, because when I have my enthusiasm, it allows me to move through the obstacles should they arise. So visualize with enthusiasm, plan with enthusiasm, then next speak with enthusiasm. I don't know about you, but have you ever had an experience where you've met someone that has a mission, a why of what they're up to, and they talk to you about it with such amazing enthusiasm that you're ready to take action with them or write them a check right at the point, and they haven't even asked for anything? It's because that enthusiasm impacts us on a cellular level, in our heart level. Hi, Terry Lynn Moore. Good to have you join me, my friend. So think about how you're speaking when you have something that you want to share, an idea, share a concept, share something you're in love with. What's your level of enthusiasm? And then finally, and probably most importantly, is to act with enthusiasm. Now, you know that there's three people that that we show up in life with us. There's those that make things happen, those that that watch things happen, and then there's those that go, what just happened, right? So what we want to do is act with enthusiasm. Even the small mundane things. In fact, that's really what brings us to mastery, is finding the joy, finding the enthusiasm in the small things and doing them over and over again, because those small things lead to tremendous results. So that's my message for you today, folks. Encourage you, and I challenge you this week to bring enthusiasm into your life, into your everyday activities, as well as your large projects. You don't have to be an international musical artist like David Gray to bring enthusiasm to your everyday work, your everyday way of being. And when you do that, and when you sing your songs with enthusiasm, metaphorically, then you can avoid what one of my favorite teachers, Wayne Dyer, used to say is, don't let yourself die with your song still within you. So use some enthusiasm this week. Go out and hit it hard. Do it with joy, do it with excitement, do it with enthusiasm. And if you enjoyed this, please share this with your family and friends. Also, if there are comments you'd like to make, if there are ways that you bring enthusiasm to your life and your projects, please share that below as well. And thanks so much for joining me this week, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.